Okay, if that goes off, it's okay. It's all right. I won't be offended or anything.
No, it's fine.
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. I love to come here. I love the energy of this very special church and the people who are here. And many of you I've known for years that I've been coming here, so I'm so blessed to be here. So today my talk is going to be on kindness. Kindness. Can everybody hear me back there? Is it okay? A little bit up? Okay, a little bit up. All right. Would you turn the air on a little bit? A little hot. Sorry. Okay, the talk is on kindness, but this morning, what I did was I went into meditation. That was okay. And I received this message, and I think it's appropriate for everybody. I don't think it's really just about me. So I'm going to talk about what happened when I went into meditation this morning. It's very short. And then I'm going to get into the talk. It said, be thou, so somebody is giving me this information, be thou a speaker for all that is good and true today. And I think that is true for all of us. May a mantle of peace be placed on your shoulders today. And we have a mantle of peace on our shoulders. And we bow our heads in solemn prayer that all that is good will come our way today. So isn't that a lovely way to start off the morning? Getting into the day. So, all right. So, I wrote this talk on kindness, and I wrote it in really light pencil. So I may have to look a little bit close to look at my words. And first of all, here's one I want to start out by talking about. And I may ask you for your input, a little input on kindness. I have like a small core of friends who I've known for a long time, right? And I recently made a new friend. And what I noticed about this person was that she was very kind. She was a kind person. And I thought to myself, am I a kind person? Can I be described as a kind person? It was just a question. There was really no answer. And so I thought about what it meant to be kind. And we might be sitting here and thinking, well, what's kindness about? Isn't it just a thing over to the side that maybe some people are? Or what does it have to do with spirituality or whatever? But I think it's really, really, really beautiful when we have a kind friend in our life. And so how do we get kindness is where I was going with that. How does a person become kind? Or am I kind? Am I a kind person? So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. That is the motivation. So I like to start with fun facts. Fun facts about kindness. I just get into the nitty-gritty of what do people say about kindness. And so when I looked it up, I'm going to start with actually the one that's most surprising to me. How many times do you think kindness is talked about in the Bible? I'm talking about the King James Version, which is the one that I love, which has, let me look it up, 783,000 words. That's a lot of words in the Bible. That's why they have a really tiny print. And they make sure to print it in red for when Jesus speaks. But anyway, so yes, audience participation. Out of those many words, how many times do you think that the word kind or kindness is mentioned in the Bible, both the Old and the New version? What do you think?
20.
5,000.
Okay, so we're somewhere between 20 and 5,000.
Can I have a caveat?
Is that what we said?
But maybe it's not the exact word kindness. I mean,
It's kind or kindness. I put.
but I mean other things that mean the
loving
same.
kindness,
Mean the
not-
same thing. You know.
Okay.
Don't
Don't
correct
the
overthink it.
speaker.
I'm just I'm asking. That's a question.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
That's a joke, people. Okay, so kindness or kind, and we were between 20 and 5,000. Let me just say it's much, 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 much closer to 20 than 5,000. Isn't that fascinating? The word love is very much in the Bible, but not kind, which is fascinating to me. Anyway, it's mentioned 52 times.
Oh, okay.
52. And would you like to know, because I have a math bent, what percent that is of the words? I will tell you, because all you have to do is divide 52 by all the number of words, and it is 0.007% of the words
I said point.
in the Bible. Is that a lot?
No.
It's very, very few. I mean, 0.1% is one tenth of a percent. So we're talking about 7/1000ths of a percent. Very, very small. I don't know why I digress so much on that, except that it's fascinating. It's fascinating to me that kindness is not in the Bible. So what is kindness? And people that came after the Bible tried to figure out what kindness was. And so they based it on the 7 deadly sins, which are not the virtues. The virtues were kind of a counterpoint to the 7 deadly sins, and you know what those are, right? And so, but the virtues, one of the virtues is kindness. And its counterpoint was wrath or anger. So that kind of helped me to get a little understanding of what people thought about in terms of kindness. And so, of the 52 times that kindness was mentioned, or kindness, in the Bible, there's one that I particularly love, and it was in Ephesians. So I'm going to read that out for you. It says in Ephesians, and this was a letter in one of the epistles to Paul, by Paul to the people of Ephesus, and he says, "And be ye kind." It's the first thing he says about how to treat people. He says, "And be ye kind." And then he says, one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving of one another. Now, isn't that a very beautiful way of thinking about people? And just the idea of him putting kindness first. And that had a lot of power in a lot of ways. The other times that it was used was not as meaningful to me as that. Okay, so the next thing that I want to think about is kindness a spiritual value? Honestly, I don't read that it's considered, loving is considered to be a spiritual attribute that somebody has. But why should we be kind? And what is kindness anyway? That's what I want to think about. Here's the interesting thing. When a person is kind, I think you can see it on their face. A person who is kind, there is something about their face that is very, very beautiful and open and soft somehow. Almost the way that water hits a rock and it smooths out the contours of a rock. It smooths it. And I think that's what kindness does for us. Kindness is something that we have to be active in doing. You can't just say it's up in there, I don't think. That it's up in there. I know that I'm a kind person. Kindness comes through acts. And I think that that is not exactly the easiest thing to do. The other thing, I'm going to pivot a little bit and say that kindness is a slippery slope. Do you remember that saying, kindness, here I had to write it down, the random acts of kindness, do you remember that? I think it may be in the 1990s. Okay, that right there is a slippery slope, I think. Because the minute we start thinking about doing something kind for someone, who do you think steps up? It's not the devil.
Ego.
Yes, ma'am, it is the ego. And we say, okay, yes, me, I'm good. Over here, this is me. I have So kindness is not one of those things I think we can program. I think it has to happen in the moment. In the moment when something happens, does it come from our, and I think it comes out of our heart, but I don't think it's the same thing as love. I think they're two different things. Okay. All right, so these are some of the things I wrote down about kindness. It's a choice. It's a choice that we can make at any time. It's not like we're walking around and waiting to be kind, but it somehow is part of who we are. It seems like it comes from a place of centeredness. Somehow we have to be conscious of ourselves, I think, to some degree, in order to be kind. These are just things that I'm kind of trying to understand what it is. Okay, the next one is, there's something pure about it. Kindness is something that has no darkness in it. It's pure, it's of the light. Okay, so, hold on, this is the thing where I have to look at it. It comes from the heart, I just said that. Okay, and it's not conditional. So I don't look at a person and say, I'm going to be kind to that person. You literally give your kindness to everybody. If we have that, we feel it shows up. It shows up in our relationship with them. Okay, so audience participation again. I know I have just a few more minutes. What do you think kindness is? Or what would you use to say about it? What do you think? How does it show up in you or in another person? Does anybody have anything? Yes, ma'am?
It shows in your face.
In what way?
When you smile.
Smile. Smiling is kind, that's right, it is. And you can't fake a smile. And if you do, we know it's fake, right? So it's like, I love that. Anybody else? Maybe over here? Yes, ma'am.
I feel like kindness comes from your heart. So it is loving. Because
Yes.
usually if you
Yes.
do something like that, it
Yes.
feels good to both.
That's
Who
right.
you
Oh,
gave it to and yourself.
Love that. Anybody else?
I think it's spontaneous. It's something that you don't sit around and think about it. You see
Yes.
someone needs you or needs something, and
Yeah.
you just do it. Right?
It's just a kindness
Yeah.
that you have that
Yeah.
comes out.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other thing I said is being kind feels like an allowing or a surrendering. There's something not programmed about it. It's an allowing, a surrendering to something, an acceptance, an understanding. It can feel very subtle, but its strength is in its ever-presence or the possibility of being ever-present. Okay. All right. Okay, so here's what I am just looking at these notes quickly. I think there might be something empathic about being kind to some degree as well. Empathic. Okay, so I am going to close with what other people say about kindness. What other people? We didn't find it in the Bible, but there's some very smart people who have talked about kindness. And one of them is Aristotle. And he said, I'm going to take my glasses off for this. I can see you, sort of, but I can read better. Aristotle defined kindness as helpfulness towards someone in need, not in return for anything, nor for the advantage of the helper themselves, but for that of the person helped. Aristotle very nicely said. Maya Angelou. Anybody know who Maya Angelou is? I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, very beautiful book. Continue to be who and how you are, to astonish a mean world with your acts of kindness. Okay. Nice. Confucius says, act with kindness, but do not expect gratitude. About that. And Frank, you can always, always give something, even if it is only kindness. And that's sweet. Okay, Amelia Earhart. I have two more after this. A single act of kindness throws, oh, I love this. A single act of kindness throws out roots in all directions, and the roots spring up and make new trees. Plato, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a harder battle. And finally, Mark Twain. This is so sweet too. He says, kindness is the language with the deaf, which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. Thank you, people. Wait.